Good evening, 6th graders. It's on to our next lesson in Chapter 2, Weathering and Erosion. We're going to be studying pages 40 to 43. This time we're going to be talking about erosion. And remember, erosion is the moving of sediment from one place to another. That's different from the word weathering. Weathering means the rock will break down into smaller pieces or change to a new substance completely. It makes sediment. But there are things, just like we had agents of weathering, we have agents of erosion. And the most important one, or the biggest reason we have erosion, or the moving of sediment, is gravity. But there are other agents. Gravity is the first one. Water also moves the sediment. Wind and ice. And we'll talk about each one of those in just a moment. The first one is wind erosion. Now you might not be able to see the picture very well, but you can see the wind, this is in the desert, picking up the sand and blowing it to a new place. Okay, so remember, sand is sediment, it's a particle. Wind is picking it up and moving it. Wind erosion. Okay, then we also have water erosion. Now, you might get this confused with weathering. Yes, the water is doing weathering, it's breaking down the sediment, but also at the same time it's picking up that sediment and moving it to a different place. And along with moving that sediment, it does abrasion and makes these formations that you see here, this river between these rocks. Okay. We also have ice erosion. You'll see these as this way up north where we have glaciers, and glaciers are, it is ice, but it's still moving, and it moves very, very slowly, and what it does is it picks up rocks, and as it's picking up rocks, those rocks cause abrasion, okay, and that abrasion is weathering, okay, and as that ices keep moving, it pushes that sediment far, 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 far away, okay, slowly, but it's still moving sediment. And we have what we call deposition. When we have the moving of sediment, erosion, it's going to be dropped somewhere eventually. Deposition, the root word is deposit, or to drop. Now you want to think of the word deposit, think of it as you going to a bank and you have a savings account and you put that money in your savings account because you want to save it. You're depositing that money or putting that money in the bank. Deposition just means that at some point the sediment was moving and then it dropped into another place. The heaviest sediment, we talked about that in class today, the heaviest sediment will always drop first. Okay? If you take a scoop of dirt and put it in water and let it settle, you'll see that they'll make layers, and the heaviest, the biggest particles will be at the bottom. Okay. The sediment will make layers of rock, like I just said. Okay. And now this is an example of what happens. The water is coming into the shore. The water is picking up that sediment, erosion, moving it, and then it drops it. Okay, but it's also, as it's moving back, it's pulling sand back to the water. So erosion, moving, deposit, deposition, dropping it. Now usually when we have erosion, it's very slow, but there's also large masses of land or large masses of sediment that move or have great erosion. And this is what we call mass movement. The strongest reason why we have this movement is gravity. Gravity will pull on an object, causing it to move. All right. In this case, with each of these examples, you're going to have a lot of sediment that is going to be moving. Okay. Now, some of these examples that we're going to talk about, they move quickly and some move slowly. It just depends on the kind that we're talking about. And the next slides, we're going to see the examples. The first example is called soil creep. Now that word creep, you want to think of really smooth, moves really slowly. If you see somebody creeping, they're walking really slowly and quietly. Okay, so what happens here is gravity, and you don't have a very, very tall hill, but gravity is moving the top layer very, very, very slowly. And at one time, if you can see this, this is a fence. It used to be straight up and down. This tree also used to be straight up and down. But over time, with the land moving or the soil moving, it causes the fence to move forward a bit. Okay, that's called soil creep. The next one, this is called earth flow, but another word for earth flow is called landslide. Now, this happens at a very higher angle, okay? See, the first one was more like this, but this time it happens at a very steep angle or a very tall angle. Now, in this case, depending on how loose the rocks are or the sediment is, this could happen slowly or quickly, but you can see the dirt coming down and blocking the whole road here. The next one is called mud flow. It's the same as earth flow, but it just has a lot of water mixed in with it. So this is also called a mudslide, and you can see an example. This is something that happens very quickly. This is a semi-truck. This mudslide came in and buried it. Okay, it happens very, very quickly. Some of these happen slow, some of these happen quickly. Another one is called a rock slide. If you can see this, these are very, very large boulders that break from the side of a mountain. When they do break, for some reason, maybe there was an earthquake or there's a shifting of the plates, this could happen. These large rocks will break and fall down, and that as they're falling, it will cause more rocks to break and more rocks to roll down. This is called a rock slide. Now, along with soil, we have snow that can move, okay? And also that snow can push sediment down the hill. This is what happens when the mountain's at a very steep angle. Something happens, maybe the mountain will shake, causing that snow to become loose, or maybe large noises will cause a strong vibration and cause the mountain to shake, and it will loosen that snow, and it will start a tumbling effect. It will start off as small, but it will break more snow, break more snow, break more snow, and then you have a large mass of snow coming down at you. The next one is stream erosion. So when you think of a stream is usually a small river. As a stream is moving downriver, it's going to carry sediment, it's going to carry minerals. That's called a load. Okay, so a load is sediment that the stream carries. And there's two kinds of load. You have what is called a dissolved load, meaning the minerals, for example, salt, dissolve in the water. And this is why the ocean is salty, because all the rivers eventually go to the ocean. The gravity pulls that water to the ocean, and then the rivers, when it goes into the ocean, deposits all that sediment, deposits all that mineral, and that's why the ocean is salty. The other one, some examples of places that are really salty is the Great Salt Lake, and I believe this is in Michigan, and then also the Dead Sea. We learned about that in Bible class. Then you have a suspended load. This is minerals and sediment that does not dissolve in the water. Okay? When the sediment is being carried in the stream, it causes abrasion. And what happens, the sediment rubs against the bottom of the stream or the sides of the stream, and it makes it bigger, and it also makes it deeper. Then we have something called a flash flood. This is when a lot of water, maybe there's heavy rain, and it breaks up the soil. You can see here, this was a road that had broken because of all this flash flooding. This causes great erosion, lots of sediment moving because of all of this water. It's extremely strong and extremely dangerous. This is not something to play in. It can take cars and move them, depending how much water it is. Okay. Along with stream erosion, remember I mentioned that all rivers go back to the ocean or meet up with the ocean. And at the end of a river, when it meets the ocean, this is what we call the mouth of the river. And at the mouth of a river, it gets wider, and as it gets wider, the river will get slower. When the river gets slower, it's going to drop more sediment. And when that happens, it usually forms this triangle shape here. And this is where a lot of sediment happens. Islands are formed this way. And the reason why it's called a delta, the Greek letter in the Greek alphabet is in the shape of a triangle, and the Greek alphabet name is a delta. So hence this is called a delta. This is a large mass of sediment caused by deposition or depositing. Okay. Well, we finished this lesson, and what I want you to do is just read the pages that we just studied and underline 5 words or phrases that you don't understand, and we'll talk about it next time in class. See you again.